Hello, and welcome to This Lesson Has 22 Minutes. I'm your host, Terry Turcott-Smith. Disciplinary literacy is the careful study of language specific to a field or specialty. Our lesson today will propel us into the language specific to the field of flight. By learning about this language, we are preparing students to enter into discussions or to pursue specific discipline further in the future. As we lift off into our lesson, I should warn you that it is intended for a younger audience between the grades of 4 and 6. So you should ask the adults to leave the room immediately. You might be a well-grounded person, but have you ever learned about aeronautics? Well, today our teachers in the field will help us explore the field of flight, or aeronautics, as we will learn about the parts of a plane, what those parts are used for, and by the end, we'll be ready to take to the skies with an aircraft of our own. Before we take off into our lesson, let us take a look at what we have in store for you today. Our first teacher, Renee Siberia, will take us through the various key terms. These will include the various parts of the plane and what they do. Renee will differentiate the learning to help those who need help with English language learning. Our second teacher, Jordan Martin, will model the process of building our planes by taking us through the materials and demonstrating the steps we need to take to put everything together. And then finally, she will review the different parts of the plane. Our final teacher, Adrian Hunt, will take us through the exploration and formative assessment, during which we will fly our planes and test the different parts we have learned about and how they interact with flight. So don't go adjusting your rudder. There'll be no yawning in this class. Let's get into the lesson. Over to you, Renee.
Hi, I'm Renee Siberia, and I'm here to report on differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is a philosophy and an approach to teaching in which teachers and school communities actively work to support the learning of all students through strategic assessment, thoughtful planning, and targeted, flexible instruction. Differentiation is also for students who need extra learning supports or challenge. Our airplane project has the opportunity to be presented in various ways to meet the needs of diverse learners. Today's classrooms are increasingly diverse. Students come from a variety of backgrounds and have a wide range of learning strengths and needs. Differentiated instruction makes it possible for teachers to reach all learners and can particularly enhance the success of students with disabilities, English language learners, students who are gifted, or students considered at risk for leaving school before completion. Our English language learners need additional support to access content while developing their language skills. Effective instruction for English language learners is to both support achievement of grade level learning outcomes and promote language acquisition. There are a variety of ways that teachers can differentiate learning activities for our ELL learners. Alberta Education suggests teachers begin by learning more about the student's learning profile and where they stand in the proficiency benchmarks. For ELL learners, using images and graphics are a great way to begin. Luckily, our airplane project provides a lot of opportunity for creating images and hands-on work. English language learners may need to make adjustments to their worksheets, diagrams, or instruction manuals to include their first language, or L1. Here, we allow the ELL learner to write the airplane terms in their L1, or Spanish, below the English term. For discipline-specific terminology, the learner can first work in their L1, or in this case Spanish, in order to gain a deeper understanding. The student can initially use programs like Google Translate to translate words and passages from English into their L1. With an understanding from their L1, the student can then begin to complete some of the work in English with brief sentences or lists. Provide room for students to use pictures or drawings to showcase their understanding. This process allows English language learners to develop disciplinary literacy skills in English and their L1. More differentiation. We can modify the construction of our airplane from this, to even using something like this. Encourage students to bring their own cardstock from their favorite cereal or something else they like. This creates a small element of individuality and can get the students excited to share more about themselves. This is great for all students, including our ELL learners. Using repurposed cardstock will promote using recycled materials and show how easy it can be to reduce waste in our projects. Also, students will know they can make this project just as easily from home without specialized materials. For students who may need extra challenge or have special aptitudes, we can adjust the project to have them measure and draw the components rather than simply cutting out the template. It may be easier to begin the learning activity by building a traditional paper airplane. Many students will already be familiar with this design, and it can be a way to scaffold their understanding until they can become more comfortable with the glider version. The traditional paper airplane will still allow students the opportunity to make adjustments for testing, and it also allows students ample space for labeling and coloring. The folded airplane process only requires using one material, so it is great for students who may have limited mobility. Using alternative materials can be beneficial to students with specialized IPPs. Increasing the size and softness of the materials can make the glider easier to handle for some learners. Students who need extra challenge can also practice designs with various materials to create their project. Art room or shop class leftovers can be a great place to look for suitable materials to begin designing their aircraft. Essentially, we can see that differentiation for all learners can create a more well-rounded project. Modifications for ELL learners, like including labels and drawings in their worksheets, can be great for other students who need extra reinforcement in their disciplinary language skills. Showcasing various designs from different materials scaffolds learning and is beneficial to all students to be able to visualize how the same project can be recreated in various ways.
Thanks, Renee. Hi, grade 6. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to build this. Pretty simple, lots of fun, and all about flight. You will need scissors, clear tape, a pencil, a straw that doesn't have a bendy section, 3 paper clips, a paper airplane template provided by your teacher, and a ruler. Step 1. Your teacher will give you a copy of the paper airplane template printed on cardstock. Start by cutting out the outlines from the paper airplane template. When you are done, you should have a set of wings, a horizontal stabilizer, and a vertical stabilizer. Step 2. Lay the wings flat on the table with the straw carefully aligned in the middle of the wings. You want a little bit of the straw to be sticking out over the top of the wings to make the nose of the airplane. Then tape the straw to the wings. Step 3. With a ruler and a pencil, decide how long you want to make your ailerons. Make 2 little notch marks on the rear of each wing to make the ailerons. Draw a line connecting the 2 notch marks and label these flaps the ailerons. You want to make sure that both of your ailerons are the same length and size so that your plane works properly. Step 4. Use your scissors and cut the 2 notches on each aileron, but make sure you do not cut the line you drew to connect the 2 notches. Step 5. Using your scissors, go to the rear of the plane and cut a line in the top of the straw. Then cut one line in the right side of the straw and the left side, about 90 degrees from the first line you cut at the top of the straw. You want to cut only enough so that your vertical and horizontal stabilizer fit halfway into the straw. When you are done, your straw should look something like this. Step 6. On the straight edge of the vertical stabilizer, you are going to draw a 1 centimeter line about 1 centimeter from the bottom of the vertical stabilizer. Then you are going to cut along that line and label this flap the rudder. Step 7. Insert the horizontal stabilizer and vertical stabilizer into the slits in the straw. Use tape to fasten the vertical stabilizer so it is standing straight up. Note you want your horizontal stabilizer to be in line with your wings. Step 8. Where the vertical stabilizer meets the horizontal stabilizer, you are going to use your scissors to cut a 1 centimeter notch to create the elevators. Then you are going to label each side elevator. Step 9. Add weight to the nose of the plane by using the 3 paper clips and sliding them into the top of the straw. When you are done building your plane, it should look something like this. You should have 2 ailerons on the back of your wings. You should have a nose of your plane that has 3 paper clips on it. On your horizontal stabilizer, you should have 2 elevators, and on the vertical stabilizer, you should have a rudder. Now that we've built our airplane, let's review the parts of the airplane. On our airplane, the straw makes up the fuselage of a plane. The paper clips on the front is the nose of our plane. The wings are on either side of the fuselage with ailerons on the tips of them. At the back of the plane, we have the horizontal stabilizer where the elevators are located. And on the vertical stabilizer, we have the rudder. Now that we've reviewed where each part is located, let's review what parts control pitch, yaw, and roll. Pitch is controlled by the elevators. You will remember that pitch is the up and down motion of the plane. When both the elevators are down, the plane pitches downward, and vice versa. When both the elevators are up, the plane pitches upwards. Yaw is controlled by the rudder. Yaw is the left and right motion of the nose of the plane. When the pilot wants the nose of the plane to go to the right, the rudder will also need to be turned to the right, and vice versa. If the pilot wants the nose of the plane to go to the left, the rudder will also need to go to the left. Roll is controlled by the ailerons. By putting one aileron up and the other aileron down, the plane will roll. The direction of the roll depends on which aileron is up and which one is down. You will get a chance later on to test your airplanes and explore just how to make your plane roll in the direction you desire. Now that concludes our time of modeling. Next up, we're going to go over to Adrian to see how this plane reacts in flight. Over to you, Adrian.
Hello, this is Mr. Hunt reporting to all you marvelous grade 6 students about your rubric for your flight and aviation unit. As you can see, your rubric is broken into 4 categories: visual representation, knowledge of concepts, worksheet requirements, and application. And across the top are the 4 standards upon which you'll be graded on. We are now going to read through the rubric from exceptional down to limited so all students understand what is being requested of them. Let's start with visual representation. To get a 4, which is exceptional, your plane was built flawlessly with no mistakes in construction. To get a 3, which is proficient, your plane was built with few mistakes in construction. To get a 2, which is satisfactory, your plane was built with some mistakes in construction. To get a 1, which is limited, your plane was not built correctly and there was mistakes in construction. Next up is knowledge of concepts. For a 4, which is exceptional, it demonstrated a masterful knowledge of all outcomes. For a 3, proficient, it demonstrated a knowledge of all outcomes. For a 2, for satisfactory, it demonstrated a knowledge of all outcomes. For a 1, for limited, there was a limited knowledge of all outcomes. Next up is the worksheet requirements. For a 4, for exceptional, all requirements are met and exceeded. For a 3, for proficient, all requirements are met. For a 2, for satisfactory, 1 or 2 requirements are not quite met. For 1, for limited number of requirements are met. Next up is application. For a 4, for exceptional, design worked perfectly and flew for the desired amount of time. For a 3, for proficient, the design worked well and flew for almost the desired amount of time. For a 2, for satisfactory, the design worked well but had some flaws. For 1, for limited, the design had major flaws and did not fly. If you follow this rubric, it will help you understand how you and yourself can achieve much more than you have ever expected. Anyone is capable of the exceptional as long as you put in the time and the effort. Here are a few designs that I have created and that I will be flying for you guys. I have 4 different kinds of designs, 3 long skinny planes and 1 short stubby one. The first long skinny plane is this yellow one, which is made of cardstock, and its design is found on the bottom. The second long skinny plane is this one, with all the lettering on it. It's made of all the regular printer paper, and its design is both on the top and the bottom. The third long skinny one is done with the notebook paper, and all the designs are hidden on the inside. And finally, the short stubby one, which has fins along the sides, and is made out of letterhead paper. Any thoughts? Which one would you think would fly best? After watching all 4 designs in action, I found that the yellow cardstock airplane was the most successful. But now, why do you think that was? I have found there are a few reasons why it was. The cardstock has a smoother surface area on the top, helping it to fly better. The one that is written on has much going on with the pieces in the back, causing it to spin out. The third plane's nose is smashed in and cannot complete a smooth run, causing it to no longer be aerodynamic. The short stubby plane has its fins along with the design, making it having less surface area for the air to travel on. I hope you all enjoyed this project and this unit in general. Happy flying in your futures.
Okay, Claire, are you okay with being in the movie?
Yeah,
Yeah. Can you give your whole name? What's your whole name?
Claire Veronica Turcott Smith.
You can cut out our plane, okay? Alright, so what we need to do now is we need to measure out the ailerons, okay? These are like the flaps that go on the sides of the wings. You remember when we went to Florida?
Yeah,
And the plane had those little parts on the side of the wing that went up and went down.
yeah.
Mine broke. I guess I'll have to fix it.
Oh,
So what have we learned? Well, we started with a specific language needed to talk about aeronautics. The ailerons, the fuselage, the elevators, the rudder, and wings are all important parts of the plane. By manipulating the ailerons, we can control the roll of the plane, which means to rotate the body or the fuselage. By adjusting the elevators, we are able to control the pitch of the plane, which means to move the plane up or down. And by moving the rudders side to side, we can control the yaw of the plane, which means to move the plane side to side. So what do you think, class? Ready to take to the skies and try flying a plane of your own? Or perhaps some of you will one day become aerospace engineers, which means you will be in charge of designing and building the planes other people fly in. As for me, I think I'll stick to flying in coach. Oh, that means I'll leave flying to the professionals. From here, all of us here at this lesson has 22 minutes. Thank you, and keep learning, Alberta.